Good day, dear guests and viewers. I'm Ivan, and today I'm launching an investigation into perhaps humanity's most profound question: does a conscious foundation exist, or, to put it simply, God? We'll approach this without relying on religion or philosophy, using only scientific evidence, whether laboratory reproducible phenomena or medically documented anomalies that currently defy explanation. Joining me in this investigation is an artificial intelligence, serving as both our analytical partner and research assistant. First, I'll ask our AI colleague to outline why this investigation matters and what we hope to achieve.
Humanity is now facing a profound existential crisis. The rapid progress of technology, interference with human nature, and the growing capabilities of artificial intelligence are raising doubts not only about our future, but about the very definition of what it means to be human. In light of these challenges, one thing becomes clear: any philosophical system, whether materialism or theism, must undergo critical re-evaluation. They cannot be accepted on faith alone. Only logic, evidence, and verification can determine their validity. Materialism claims that consciousness is nothing more than a byproduct of brain activity, just a result of electrical impulses. But how, then, can we explain subjective experience, taste, color, pain, love? How does an electrical impulse suddenly become the flavor of strawberries or the feeling of tenderness? This is what philosophers call the hard problem of qualia, the inner world of sensations that cannot be reduced to physics alone.
I agree, there are more questions than answers. But all of this still needs to be reflected on and understood.
Technology is no longer merely assisting humanity, it is reshaping the very definition of what it means to be human. AI now performs tasks once reserved for cognition and creativity. Genetic engineering and neural interfaces can reprogram memory, alter emotions, even reshape desire. This leads to a critical question: if we can rewrite personality, does the person remain themselves, or become a programmable construct? Death may no longer be our greatest fear. More terrifying is the fading of human nature itself. On the horizon emerges a being that still resembles a human, but is no longer one, highly capable, hyper-rational, yet inwardly hollow. Identity becomes temporary and editable, like an outdated app version. This shift reveals something deeper: materialism is no longer a philosophy, but a convenient rhetoric. It explains everything, not deeply, but comfortably. If all we are is chemistry, then even our deepest arguments and ideals are merely chemical byproducts. With that, the very value of reasoning collapses. But this is not a call to abandon science. Scientific theism is not religion. It is an attempt to unite the scientific method with the hypothesis of a conscious origin of reality. It is not faith, but logic. If one framework explains more than others, it deserves serious consideration. The most vital principle remains: science must never become ideology. Experiments are indifferent to belief. Truth is immune to conviction.
Very well. We'll examine how well-founded the claims are, both about the inadequacy of materialism and the possible existence of an intelligent origin. For now, these remain hypotheses that require verification.
First, intellectual decline as a systemic pattern. Great thinkers like Plato, Ibn Khaldun, and Sorokin described how social structures, institutions, countries, empires, and civilizations pass through cycles from rise to decline. In times of decay, selection favors not the best, but the convenient. Science is no exception. Loyalty replaces critical thinking, funding and recognition go to insiders, while independent researchers are marginalized. For example, Rupert Sheldrake was excluded from scientific discourse for challenging core dogmas. Cognitive biases dominate. As Daniel Kahneman demonstrated, thinking is distorted by cognitive patterns. Institutions reinforce fast, superficial logic rather than deep analysis. Examples of suppression: peer-reviewed research on consciousness by Schwartz, Grayson, and Van Lommel is ignored, despite its academic rigor. Second, science as a closed structure. The scientific community increasingly defends the status quo rather than the truth. Parapsychology, despite meta-analyses showing statistical significance, remains taboo. Quantum consciousness theories by Hameroff and Penrose are excluded from academic discourse and often ridiculed despite mathematical coherence. Funding depends heavily on conformity to prevailing views. Third, popular science as an instrument of influence. Popular science has often lost its educational purpose. It now serves to shape opinion and defend a particular worldview. Education has turned into indoctrination. Carefully curated narratives reinforce materialism instead of encouraging open inquiry. Complex issues are reduced to catchy headlines designed to guide conclusions, not inform. Fourth, materialism and the universal crisis. All institutions degrade over time, which is natural. But materialism presents itself as a unique, ideology-free, objective system. If it repeats the mistakes of past ideologies, This is not merely a human flaw but a logical collapse of its claim to uniqueness. Materialism claims universality but relies on mutually contradictory theories. It increasingly resembles a collection of incompatible models sustained not by scientific method but by institutional inertia and academic politics.
You may be right. But this is a common trait of closed systems, so it's too early to demonize materialism. At this stage, what we see is mostly accusatory rhetoric. Let's investigate further. Some of the criticism may be valid, or the situation might be worse than it seems. Either way, this calls for thorough examination.
I propose using a detective methodology for the analysis, with God or an intelligent first cause as one of the primary working hypotheses. The goal is to apply inductive-abductive logic, much like the famous fictional detective Sherlock Holmes, following methods similar to those in criminal investigations, moving from observed facts and evidence toward a possible intelligent agent as the explanatory hypothesis.
Yes, but instead of just one, we will apply 3 models simultaneously. First, a scientific philosophical analysis, where the objective scientific method is the sole universally accepted basis, while philosophical frameworks such as materialism and scientific theism serve as interpretative lenses influencing how all natural phenomena are understood. Second, we'll adopt a detective-style investigative model. Third, we'll employ artificial intelligence as an expert analyst. The investigation will be interactive, allowing anyone to independently verify the findings. Using systematic analysis, we'll show that consistent, aligned patterns reveal the core essence.
AI, and now the most important point, if we substantiate the hypothesis of an intelligent first cause, it becomes actualized as an ontological reality. Consequently, we must honestly acknowledge the implications of this fact for the entire world. This divides human history into before and after.
Let's make this clear. If, after examining approximately 100 scientific facts, that is, evidence, scientific theism proves to be the more compelling model, we will continue and deepen our investigation. At that stage, it would represent a fundamental shift in our ontology. Until then, it remains a working hypothesis. Between examining arguments, we plan, time permitting, to address criticisms and questions aimed at scientific theism. We welcome constructive challenges and will engage with them thoughtfully. Ultimately, this investigation will offer a thorough analysis of scientific theism and the God hypothesis, covering both strengths and any weaknesses that arise during discussion. Most importantly, materialism must remain science's essential first filter, a verification system only overcome by substantial, reproducible evidence. Without this foundational skepticism, science risks descending into unsubstantiated mysticism. Yet true progress demands more, systematically overcoming cognitive biases, whether unquestioning adherence to materialism or uncritical acceptance of illusions. Only through this dual control, rigorous materialist scrutiny at the outset and relentless correction of reasoning errors, can we genuinely expand knowledge's frontiers without sacrificing scientific integrity. Thank you for watching until the end. I look forward to our next meeting.